I'm Irina Paci. I'm a professor in the chemistry department at the University of Victoria. My group is interested in doing computer-based simulations, modeling of complex materials. So a lot of the research in academia and in industry these days has to do with designing new materials for all kinds of applications, for new cell phones, larger capacity for storage, new computers even. But alongside with the developments in experimental research, there have been a lot of developments in computing. We get to use that in order to simulate and model materials on longer timescales, on larger scales. So we're basically approaching the same sort of timescales and length scales that experimentalists can approach. And in order to do these simulations, we need to use very large computers.
I feel lucky to be a part of a group with such diverse research interests, but we're all tied together by this desire to understand materials chemistry at a really fundamental level through simulation. One of my favorite recent projects was simulating the catalysts used in hydrogen fuel cells. These simulations use quantum mechanics to allow us to better understand the properties of good catalysts, and they can help identify promising new catalyst candidates before making them in a lab. The issue, though, is that these types of simulations are quite expensive to run computationally. So running them on a laptop or a normal desktop computer is really out of the question. In fact, one of the simulation methodologies that I used required a kind of uncommon allocation of computational resources, and the research computing specialists that manage Arbutus were able to configure several compute nodes to meet these requirements and ultimately help me get the results that I needed for my research.
I am a computational chemist, which means that I use computing clusters to simulate materials at the atomic and molecular scale. This is a really important thing to do because making these materials in a lab is expensive and generates a lot of waste. And if we want to make, say, a better semiconductor or supercapacitor for charge storage or transportation, we need to know what's happening at the atomic scale. And for this, I use the HPC clusters like CEDAR or the SciNet clusters. It's something that I can't do on my laptop because these have hundreds or thousands of electrons and the computations are just too large. And also, it's quite nice to have somebody else to compile my software for me.
I work on simulating small molecules on surfaces. One prevalent issue in device fabrication is the trade-off between efficiency and manufacturing perfect or ideal materials. Nano devices are one of such materials, and they are used in several purposes, including biosensing. Because they are very small, we can't study them experimentally. Hence, we use computational methods on supercomputers to simulate these devices and the reactions that occur on these devices.
The research that I've been doing recently is related to the absorption of cysteine on gold surfaces. Since cysteine is an amino acid, it obviously has a lot of applications in biology, and the absorption itself has relevance in biosensors and perhaps in surface-directed protein synthesis. Because of the size of these systems with hundreds of atoms and tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of electrons, we really need high-performance computing resources, which are provided by the DRA. Without those resources, it would just be impossible to do these calculations on a personal computer or even a very powerful one.